Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition, a first post-NRF edition of This Week in Innovation. I'm your host, Jeff Roster, with my podcast partner, Brian. Brian, how are you doing today? I think it's the first time we've been, well, not in the same spot, but the same virtual spot in a while. So what have you been up to?
Yeah, Jeff. Yeah, Jeff, doing great, and it's been great to be back home. I think the first 15 days of January, I think I was at home. Like actually, John and we were at home probably for like 2 or 3 days of the entire 15 days. So it's great to be back home and catch up. But at the same time, it was also quite fascinating to see everything that we saw at CES and where the world is going, and then not lose momentum and just go into NRF, and also the amazing the Wiki Controls VIP award, which we became one of the finalists. And of course, our partner Alta, Michelle won that amazing award as well for the long-standing partnership. It was terrific.
That was a fantastic night. Now, I think you've got a surprise for all of us, all the viewers and listeners. So should I bring on our surprise?
Yes, absolutely. Let's bring them on.
Brian, you want to introduce the crew here?
Yeah, absolutely. So today I'm super fortunate to have my group and my colleagues here, right? Typically it's Jeff and I alone, and we bring in guests. At the top you have John Nordmark, my partner and my co-founder at Iterate.ai. And as you know, John's a serial entrepreneur. He started and sold ebags.com, the prominent pure play handbag retail, right? And then he's been an angel investor, being active in the startup space, done a lot of work there. And welcome, John.
Welcome, Brian, Jeff. This is fun.
Great to have you.
Hang on to that. It might not be after I get done with you after about 40 minutes. So we'll see. Hopefully you have that same attitude.
Jeff is going to ask all kinds of tough questions today.
I'm not as bad as a Wall Street analyst, but I am still an analyst. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. So then to my bottom, we have Solomon Ray, our senior director at Iterate, who works on our strategy side as well as on special projects. And Solomon has been doing a lot of work with us on various type of innovation initiatives, and also from a product on AI side. Welcome, Solomon.
Thank you, Brian. Good to see you, Jeff.
Good to see you too.
And then we have Dave Jenkins, our VP of marketing at Iterate. And Dave has been going there to CES specifically to look at metaverse. So it's the hot topic of today. So he can talk when his turn comes, and tell us all about metaverse and his findings on companies, right? So it's gonna be a super exciting show, and I'm very excited. So it's going to be a fun, I don't know, what do you call this? A fireside chat, a panel, whatever it is.
Yeah, there's a lot of horsepower. So why don't we jump into it? What do you want to start with your thoughts around CES? Because most of us retailers, Brian, that's never been a show I've covered because it's so close to NRF, and trying to get ready for NRF, trying to get presentations locked and loaded. The last thing I wanted to do was even though it was only a hour ride over the hill to get to Vegas, it was never a show I covered. So, and probably the same with a lot of retailers. Although I'm understanding more and more retailers and tech and retail tech folks are going to CES. So what did you see, and what your thoughts, the whole team's thoughts?
No, I think we should start with John, because John covered both NRF and CES. John, what's your feeling? What excited you, and tell us about it.
Well, one of the things that always interests me is just the miniaturization of batteries and sensors. And I remember a few years ago seeing a chip that could process AI, in like an Echo device that is this, you could get 50 of them or more than 50 of them on a penny. This year I was seeing batteries and other types of sensors that were similar in size, just massive miniaturization of these items so that they could fit inside the temple piece of like glasses, and keep them charged or be able to process information inside a device, a consumer product. One company I saw that did that was called it was either Inject Power or Inject Sense. It was something like that. But again, these batteries are just micro, and the sensors are micro, and And so this is going to put the smarts into products, so the products can think and memorize information like human beings. And obviously, Iterate, our company, where we are AI first type company, where we're always trying to figure out ways to make products and solutions a lot smarter. And I think these types of inventions, these little devices are powering that. Another thing related to the sensors that I noticed is that phones seem to be getting a lot smarter. They can read facial expressions to try to detect, the beginning of a stroke, a person who's going to have a stroke before that stroke happens, because a person's face may not react the way it normally does, and these little micro changes in a way that a person the way they express themselves can be an indication of a stroke, a potential stroke victim. So phones are able to measure that. And, I saw another phone that's able to do, it's called Gut Note, I believe. It'll read your abdomen, by just placing the smartphone on your stomach. There are other digital health capabilities that come off phones like they interact with phones. But if you put sensors into, I saw that another company that had sensors in earbuds. These earbuds could tell if you're grinding your teeth at night, and then be able to do something. I can't remember what it was, but do something to tell your body to relax its jaw.
Wow.
And then readouts, on your phone. So I think the miniaturization of sensors, the miniaturization of batteries and power, and unique power sources was really interesting. One last thing that was interesting around digital health and wellness and sensors is that there are a number of sensors that have come out that can monitor your health from 30 feet away. So let's say you're an older person, this is kind of like age tech. Let's say you're an older person and you don't want to be wearing your a wristband, or you can just have a device sitting in your living room that can tell how you're breathing, read your heart rates, and those kind of things from a distance. So I think, big advances on those fronts, Brian and Jeff.
Wow. So it sounds like we're
Super
really
cool,
the age of IoT is. I mean, we've been talking about it in the analyst world for years, but it sounds like it's here now. It's here very, very officially and very, very quickly.
And
it's all
it's
coming together.
seems that way, Brian.
Yeah. And no,
Yeah.
I said it's all coming together, right? I think what's really interesting is earlier they were all like components and pieces. Now you are seeing ecosystems of everything connected together. Even like people who are doing chips, they are actually demonstrating use cases, right? Which was, I think, I thought was really interesting in this CES. They have a lot of
Yeah,
people.
and the production of ecosystems, again, like there's a company I saw called Matter, which is trying to tie together like all these disparate services that don't interact with each other today, so that all of a sudden your digital ecosystem can operate through one common type hub. And I think we're seeing this happen in businesses. We'll see it happen at home, and so that's another really interesting progress point, especially as we head toward the metaverse. Whatever that is. All these things do need to work together if we have a true metaverse type environment.
That's absolutely great, John. Now let's go to Solomon. Solomon, I think you also you looked at you had a kind of a dual focus, right? You looked at some emerging tech companies, but you also looked at some of the large partner companies in there. Tell us about what you saw and what excited you.
Sure, Brian. I'll start off with the CES itself. So I first attended CES with Iterate back in January 2020. And back then, the CES attendance was at 171,000. And in 2021, unfortunately, because of COVID, CES became completely digital. So because the barrier to entry became so much lower now to exhibit companies, what we saw on the digital platform was that there were a ton of different companies that were exhibiting a lot of products and promises. a lot of which actually just turned out to be, you can call it vaporware. Um, Looking at 2022, last year, it was a little bit of a hybrid model. So they did reopen CES and they did have their digital platform, but the actual attendance was 45,000. Now this year, a couple of weeks ago, earlier this year in January, the final count for CES 2023 was 115,000. So you can
So
say
what
there was an
one
error.
one 115,000. So what?
Cor-
60% of what peak was. Okay.
Correct.
Wow.
So
It seemed
so you can
crowded.
say,
It still seems like a lot of people. I mean, 54,000 is
Yeah.
typically what we had at
Yeah. Compared to
Oracle
NRF, right? That's a big
Oracle Open
traffic.
World. Yeah, 30,
Yeah.
35,000 at NRF, and I thought
Yeah.
I was crowded. So still a
Yeah.
huge number of folks. And what's the analysis? Do you think folks was
yeah,
it was
I agree with their take. There was definitely an air of optimism this year about CES because many organizers, exhibitors, and attendees looking forward to a rebound. Sure enough, as you can see, a lot of media and even attending there, you see a lot of attention-grabbing headlines, mostly about metaverse and electric vehicles. Since our work at Iterate is mostly focused on AI, it was really interesting to note that many AI innovations tended to take a back seat to their applications. So what I mean is, let's say computer vision. Computer vision itself isn't going to draw attention. You're not going to see a company that's just showcasing computer vision itself and kind of showing models. What a lot of exhibitors are doing is they are showing the computer vision is different with different industrial applications, and then they're showcasing those applications. Specifically, in the create startup section, there was a startup called Tracker, and they actually won a CES 2022 Innovation Award, and they specialize in inventory automation. So a lot of their clients are stores, retailers, etc. So their booth actually had a set with a camera device. It's called Spider Go, and it's a device that's connected to a metal track on the ceiling, and then they have wires that actually descend the camera along this metal track. So what that camera actually does is it's using computer vision to scan products vertically. So imagine if you're in a convenience store, any type of store with store shelves. This camera runs along a track, and then it descends to keep track of the inventory in the store. So this camera reads RFID, barcodes, and uses computer vision as well as LiDAR to detect spatial objects. And what was really interesting in my conversation with is that this is a more cost-effective solution than some of these store inventory detection systems that we've explored in Iterate. If you think Amazon Go, it's millions of dollars of cameras to install. So we're seeing these different innovations and applications using these technologies, but they're not focusing on the technology itself. The focus is on the application.
That's super awesome. That's very good, Solomon. I think I agree with you as well, because I think this time what was really interesting, to my previous comment on John's statement as well, is that you saw a lot more applications, right? They bought a lot of core technologies, they bought chips, they bought IoT, but they also showed examples of them, right? I think in 2020 we didn't see that. I think which is amazing, which is really great for the industry, right? The more technology vendors are focusing on applications and use cases, I think it becomes powerful because that's something you can take and apply in your business today, right? So no, that's awesome. Thanks, Solomon. And Dave, you went this time, and essentially you went to both NRF and CES. And I think in NRF and CES you did have a startup focus, right? And metaverse focus. So tell us about both. It'll be interesting to
Yeah,
hear.
I did. I had specific assignments to go look at metaverse, how it was playing out at CES and NRF, and to build on what
It's
John
interesting.
and Paul both been saying is that I would agree that innovation is occurring across the entire supply chain, from the parts, the batteries, the sensors, the wiring harnesses, all the way up through complex products and platforms like these huge electric cars and the Sony Sony deal with Honda. Sony is launching its own electric car now, and it's got sensors all over it. And to build on what Solomon was saying, I agree. The AI is the leverage point that these platforms are differentiating themselves. But it's not just the computer vision. It's not just the AI to have the AI. It has to have a real world use case. And we were seeing a lot of that. And the two main themes I personally was concentrating on was the digital health. And John had mentioned some of that, but then also there's a lot of sensors around environmental controls, water sensors, air sensors. I mean, sustainability is a huge theme. And I think if we've seen some of the news coming out of the AP and kind of the mass market reports on the reports for CES, sustainability was a major theme. And I would agree. And IoT and AI is certainly differentiating some companies on sustainability and environmentalism, as well as the digital health. Oh, so that's one thing. Metaverse, there was a lot of metaverse type organizations and startups there, but most of them were concentrating around VR glasses, and they were using VR glasses for kind of presenting how they're doing something inside the metaverse. I didn't really look at those as much because to me, VR is, my own personal opinion, VR is going to be very challenged on getting out beyond kind of gaming because again, it's immersive. It's not the real world. That's never going to become a part of real commerce. Or I think AR, let me say it the other way, AR and MR, mixed reality and augmented reality are going to get very far very quickly. And I did see one startup called Ant Reality, and they had some very cool AR glasses. The neck point for AR has always been, is a stylistically cool. Would I wear them just as a normal person walking down the street, not huge goggles, things like that. And this one company, Ant Reality, they had a very high def, wide field of vision and glasses that frankly looked like a pair of Ray-Bans. They were very, very cool. That was one company. Another company or another group of companies that surprised me was aromas. The ability to virtually tune in a citrus, fresh orange juice or a summer's morning or a walk in the woods. There are now these augmentation companies, and what they do is they put little tiny sensors next to your nose, and they're putting off kind of a combination of 8 or 9 different aromatics, and they're able to essentially virtually create a fort or virtually create.
Imagine Jeff, you get a smell while we listen to this podcast.
Well, so there's definitely there was definitely some very cool things around the metaverse, and the aroma thing was surprising to me. Because I mean, the VR goggles, we've seen that, and it's certainly moving ahead, but nothing was revolutionary. But this aroma thing, that was, oh, wait a minute, I had never seen that before.
2023 was supposed to be the year that glasses came out from Facebook, Apple, Amazon, and Google's relaunch of the glasses. That is supposed to. It's been talked about for a while that this is the year of that. And I think what Dave just brought up, some of the attempts to make the glasses interact with both the virtual and real worlds, the augmented experience. It's still not quite there, but there are still great attempts being made. There was one company that will put real-time translation in your glasses, so you can read the translation. If you're talking to someone who's, let's say, from Japan, and you speak English, you can read the translation in real time off the glasses. So that's an attempt, even though it's a minor one, to bring that to life. Anyway, the startups, there are many startups trying to still work on the glasses. I'm still waiting to see what the big companies like Amazon are going to do. And because Facebook actually announced it a couple of years ago, this was the year. I think we've seen some kind of cancellations or retractions on that recently, but I still think there will be big gains made. Maybe not this year, but they're coming. And again, this gets back to the sensors, all the work being done on materials, so that you can reflect information or display information inside things like glasses without having to have the big, like Dave said, those big goggles on your head. But anyway, it's just more, all this metaverse stuff that you were talking about, the aromatics, the glasses changing, all this stuff will also need to merge in order for the metaverse to sort of come to light.
So
And,
so
and
Dave, you had responsibility for metaverse at NRF also.
I did. Let me touch on one thing about CES. One other area that we saw was haptics, the ability to feel.
Yeah.
There were a lot of vendors with very cool haptic gloves and even haptic shirts and haptic suits. And it really is straight out of that movie, Ready Player One, where they look like bicycle racing shirts, but they've got electric pads all over. And by running a short electric current across it, it actually feels like an impact. So you're getting punched and you actually feel it in the shirt. And then these gloves these gloves, you can actually touch an object in the metaverse. So the haptics was progressing a long ways. To NRF, to answer to your question, yes, metaverse was there, but it was mostly around avatars because NRF is much more focused on actual commerce. These are,
Right.
retail environments and what can go on. There was there were some very cool booths around virtual avatars for customer supports, or maybe kind of there was one where it had Howie Mandel, I think it was
Wow.
DeepMind.ai, and it had a full-size Howie Mandel in a kiosk. And DeepMind was able to essentially have Howie read 300 sentences, just 300 sentences, which would take about 20 minutes maybe. And from that, it's now able to extrapolate and have Howie Mandel say anything that the AI would feed to it. So for example, if you put this Howie Mandel or, frankly, your own company's spokesperson right there in the store, people could go up, ask it a natural language question, just like we ask Alexa a natural language question. And then the NLP engine on the back, or, kind of the chat GPT on the back end, would be able to feed back the response, but it's not just text on a screen. It would have Howie Mandel or, whatever the spokesperson is, it's this full-size avatar would be giving the answer in real time. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, and by the way, that example, because I spent some time there, that is a real Howie Mandel deal, and he licenses that out.
Yeah.
So if you want to have
Yeah.
virtual Howie for a whole lot cheaper than having real Howie, he will actually
Right.
license that out, which takes that out of the idea of, oh, that's kind of cool, to now that's real commerce. That's real
Yeah.
real money beginning to change hands. So
And I
Dave,
think a
let me
lot of
just finish,
virtual,
Brian, let me just
Yeah.
finish this point with Dave, and then we'll get back to because I've had a lot of conversations with not innovators but influencers about the term metaverse at NRF, and quite a few of the folks that I've had private conversations with said, wow, we didn't see metaverse there. And what I think I know what they didn't see is the word metaverse.
Right.
I didn't see the word metaverse at all up in the fourth floor. That's where the innovation lab was. I really didn't see it at all on the main floor. But I saw plenty of evidences of individual adoptions. I completely agree with you on augmented reality. I'm a pilot, so I'm the biggest fan of augmented reality there is. Far less so on virtual reality. So I 100% agree on your point. But 3D objects and everything else, you as an analyst, I'm not looking to be the cutting edge. I'm just looking for adoption, and I can find
Right.
that. So
Right.
I don't know if you're the one guy that can compare and contrast CES, which sounds like they ran towards the word metaverse, where NRF almost ran away from the term. But gosh, 80% of the innovation lab was all metaverse technology.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. And I think CES is about the big show and future profile things that maybe are not so much based in immediate reality. I mean, the pavilions from Samsung and the other huge players had enormous curved screens, and there were cars there were concept cars that are no way ever going to make it to the street. But it's CES is there to reinforce brands as, look, we are from the future. And
Okay.
so whether it's based in reality or not, they're going to show the most fantastic
Right.
thing. Whereas NRF is about saying, hey, you can put this in your store today. Let's go into the back and sign a deal.
Well, I think and let's segue over to NRF, because I know, Brian, you've got a hard stop. And we'll come back, because I think that's a really important point, and that's a point everyone has to understand, because the conversations I've had with a lot of folks is the thought was NRF was pretty real this year. I mean, there wasn't the term quotes shiny objects, which I would very much argue with, because I think that hologram that you and I saw in Howie Mandel is pretty darn shiny. And the whole innovation lab was filled with a lot of really interesting shiny things. But definitely on the main floor, I think there was a much more of a serious attitude as to what's real and what's ready to be absorbed immediately.
Yeah.
So
The other thing, Jeff, what happens though, that's an interesting observation, because NRF has always been a show where the vendors are conditioned, right? Because if you show something that's not applicable in the retail industry, and it has to be very specific to retail, you can't show what you did in the stadium and show it in a retail conference and get them to, get them to do a deal with you, right? So NRF vendors are always very focused. I mean, if you look at it, like numbers are just the usual, right? They do a lot of these sessions and they all come with like very good KPIs. We increase engagement by 22%, AOV by 15%, right? All the like booths had these numbers, right?
Yeah.
So it's
I'm
very
not sure those numbers
conditioned.
have been audited. Just as an
No,
analyst,
I
I'm not
know.
sure they
That's
were
a different
audited.
story. That's a different story, right? I mean, that was funny when the DJ for the VIP session, he had a really great comment about all the stuff that startups talk about, right? All the KPIs and JavaScript. Every time they say to people, JavaScript
I think you
integration.
need a bodyguard to get out after he said that, because but it was 100% accurate, 100% accurate.
It is true. It is true, right? But I think, and like to Dave's point and John's point and Solomon's, I think NRF is a more of a conditioned show, in the sense a show that has preset expectation. You have to do X, Y, Z to get accepted there, right?
And I think
CES
that's
is a
changed
little
though,
bit
Brian.
more.
In the old days, I mean, because I used to beat up my clients with it, because the thing I always used to hear is imagine a world that, and I had to stop them probably about 2002, 2003. Listen, I don't have time to imagine a world that. I've got to worry about writing reports that impact the next 2 to 3 years. So you got to tell me
Correct,
what's going to impact what I need to worry about in 3 years from now. And this is 2002 or 3. So I think in the old days, it used to be kind of almost more of a CES-y sort of vibe. Is, hey, here's where we're going, and in 3 years we're going to be doing this. And I know the analyst community, me for sure, and a lot of people said stop with the 5-year timeframes. I'm going to be I'll be in 2 other jobs by then. So help me what's real, what I need to worry about today. And I think Dave, I agree with your observations, and just the time up in Innovation Lab, man. There's enough on the plate that's ready to go today. You don't need the imaginary world ad phrase.
I think it's moving a lot faster though today too. I mean, just look at ChatGPT and look at how fast that exploded. Where did that come from? Where did the money come from? The innovation is done in a lot of ways so much at such a lower cost than it used to be. It can be a couple guys in a garage, or a guy in a garage, or anywhere in the world too. It could come out of Ukraine, even during the war, and it surprises everybody. And so I do think that almost makes everything a little bit more near term. No one even has a clue where it's going to be 3 years from now. What's the world going to look like? How's ChatGPT? How's OpenAI gonna affect the world 3 years from now?
Well, I'll tell you, John, I'll tell you who's nervous about it. Analysts and reporters are very nervous about it. I will personally.
But what was interesting though is that the ChatGPT and OpenAI wasn't fully covered in CES or NRF this time. That's because it's still new. Vendors haven't got it yet.
If you have to reserve a booth like 6 months ahead of time, guess what? ChatGPT came out, 2 months ahead of
Exactly.
Build on what Solomon was saying earlier about AI cases in the very real world. I did see that at NRF, especially because NRF is kind of broke on the main floors. The way I saw it was broken into 2 halves. There were the hardware half of the floor and the software solution half of the floor. But even on the hardware half of the floor, POS providers or back-end warehouse management systems, things like that, they were using computer vision to see boxes on the conveyor belt and to track ergonomics of the workers and all that. And so that's like real world AI coming into the hardcore logistics world of commerce. And that was, so AI is making its way into the commerce, the commerce software stack. And it's going to be the differentiation point between just warehouse management providers and smart warehouse management providers.
Yeah.
Good point.
I agree. I think there's a lot of use cases. I think that's one of the things that Solomon and I were looking at in terms of the real applicability of AI, right? One of the things that we found was like a lot of people who were using AI had a lot of AI, well-known, established open source AI kits without any optimization. So we went to one vendor booth and they were doing people detection and had accuracy 54%. And I think I think we talked about it, right? Because in a like using the same kit in Interplay, we have optimized it, so we could get 85% on the exact same detection, right? So there's a lot of So as a retailer, retail executive, you are looking at this thing and saying, okay, this is applicable to my business. But unlike like a retail leader and a tech executive have tools to evaluate JavaScript. If you come to John or somebody and say, hey, I have this conversion optimization, and John will ask you 10 questions, right? How good is your conversion optimization, right? But in the AI world, a lot of those questions are still being formed in the mind of the leaders, right? I mean, of course, at Iterate, we know because we live and breathe this. But a lot of retail leaders are thinking about, okay, like somebody comes and say, I have edge AI to do blah, blah, blah. So how do you evaluate that's the right tech, right? There's a lot of things that's at the early in its inception. But I think as time goes, a lot of leaders have to kind of ask all the right questions, because there's a lot of tech we saw where, vendors just, packaged open source and just showed up. and they put together demos, and like, when an AI person like me or Solomon or Dave walk, we know, right? We look at the recognition and we can tell at the box and that is a YOLO V4 and that has these problems, right? So a lot of that stuff happened, but it's all good. Nevertheless, that's how innovation starts. Right? You gotta start somewhere, right? It's also a great opportunity for leaders to learn, right? Yeah,
I think
yeah.
Dave's observation is really good on, NRF is all about let's go in the back room and get a deal done on something that exists today, where CES has given us a glimpse into the future. But even CES is behind the curve on certain things because the emergence of new technologies are so. I mean, imagine NRF next year. How many Chat GPT things?
Yeah.
Well,
how many products are going to include Chat GPT?
And I think there'll be a
John.
section for generative AI
John, there's going to be chat GDP analysts. They're going to be on the Iterate robot walking around. What are you talking? Of course. I mean, I bet literally probably half the articles coming out of NRF 2024 will be chat GPT. I bet half of them.
Yeah, and you used to use the word, Jeff. I remember intentional innovation. I remember you told, I heard you say that many years ago, probably 8 years ago. I don't know.
No, longer than that, unfortunately.
It is that practice has to be deeply embedded in any large organization today, because if it isn't, and you don't have a way of embracing these things, you just don't know, it'll be hard to keep up. And I think even back to the glasses, like like we were talking about, where, the day that someone hits that one, watch how the world changes. The day that someone creates a eyeglasses experience that can really bring, augmented reality to life in a non-obtrusive way, everything is going to change. Shopping will change like crazy because, with the 5G networks feeding data in, all of a sudden in your glasses, you'll know if you got the best price. And with the, all that we got to watch out for.
And that's a good point. And, Apple was not at CES, for all I could tell.
Oh,
and
interesting.
Apple
they never go to any CES.
They never have.
They never 20 years. They never.
And Apple has not. I mean, they hint, but they keep pulling their punch about when are the Apple glasses coming. I don't know, right? And as John mentioned, well, supposedly this is the year for it. It's coming any day now. But John, I think you're right. Once there is a sexy pair of normal, these glasses that I'm wearing now, if they can have a tiny heads-up display that is non-intrusive and I can just walk down the street, then AR will be everywhere. That will be the next iPhone to the hinge point.
No, the other piece is it doesn't even have to be a glass, right? I paid so much money to get rid of my glass. I'm never gonna ever wear a glass. I mean, I went through 2 LASIKs, right? Why, right? But the future could be an earpiece, right? I could click on the earpiece and it could create projection on midair, right? For me, right? but everybody has to wear an earpiece for phones today, right? So the form factors can be very different, right? So I
That's a
think that,
great point, and it's hard to predict what it's going to be,
yeah,
right? We don't know. But the thing is, soon, we may be basically wearing all the knowledge that can come through the phone today, right in our ear or on our face. And
yeah, I agree.
and
Yeah,
that's what CES is about. It's trying to show how close it is. And then you have the secret companies like Apple that might be a lot closer than we think. And, who knows? We do know that Apple filed for a patent and got a patent granted on bone conduction so that the glasses can speak to you, or an earpiece, without even, no one else hears it. You can speak back and forth through your thoughts.
Should
And
should retailers be going to CES? And are
I
retailers
think
going to
so.
CES?
I think retailers should start going to CES, right? Not everyone in retail, but at least few of the certain members, like innovation team members and so on, should go. I think that's what my original point was. NRF is great, but NRF is a conditioned show, so everybody coming there is quite conditioned to show what will appeal to you, right? Sometimes the world is not conditioned. Things come out of left field, right? So you wanna cover both, right? And
So
maybe different team members can do different pieces.
so you're not telling me that I need to plan not just a week at NRF, but I need to start thinking about another week before that in Las Vegas? Oh,
Yeah, actually, you should only be at home for 2 days, Jeff, in the first 15 days of January.
you're gonna have to bring some of that Brian wine over and sweet talk Mrs. R if she's gonna say, yeah, you're gonna be gone for a half a month in January, especially this year where it was raining almost every day.
Yeah, I still have a few bottles left, and I'm
Hey,
happy
well,
to
we're
send
supposed to
some to
crack one
Kathy.
open.
Yeah.
Hey, and wrapping
Go ahead,
up.
Solomon. I think
well,
Solomon had a question. Sorry,
okay.
you got a question?
On your point about whether retailers should go to CEF, Jeff, I wanted to kind of pose this to you. Did you know that Instacart is actually moving into the grocery stores?
I lost that word. It didn't come across. What is what moved?
Did you know Instacart is moving into
Oh yeah,
grocery
they were there.
stores?
Actually, they were there. Well, you guys saw that. They were there strong, I thought.
Yes, because they debuted connected stores and they showcase an AI powered Caper cart. So Caper AI was a startup that they acquired last year for 350 million. And this is actually a startup that at Iterate we researched for years because they have the computer vision for the shopping carts. So they had that at their display, and they had a giant screen that had like personalization on it where you can get the shopping list. So they were actually debuting not just the cart, but the concept of a connected store. So to go from just delivery, but also to the grocery store. So now they're connecting their clients. So they're using computer vision to identify things in the shopping cart. And now they're going to, from delivering groceries and creating a connected store to sync with shopping lists to the cart. And they also enable features such as scan and pay and out of stock notifications. So I think these are, CES would be a great thing for retailers to just kind of see what's going on.
That's something the analyst community really needs to get in front of, because I think we're way behind the curve on. I mean, we've known about Scan and Go forever, and I mean, I go back to the IBM Shopping Buddy, which was they wanted to put a $3,000 computer on every shopping cart 20 years ago, and so we all sort of just tuned out. But now it's for sure. Hey, Brian, in wrapping up, I understand you guys won some awards at NRF.
Yeah, we did, and we are super excited about it. And we were nominated for the Long-Standing Partnership Award, right? We became a finalist there. That was really great. And the VIP event sponsored organized by Vicky Cantrell and team was fantastic. It was a great event. I think it was a great time to meet a lot of people in the industry, as well as connect and talk about innovation. And the one that we are super excited was like at the very end, Michelle, Pekinsi, our partner and our customer from Vice President of Digital Innovation at Alta. She won the Long-Standing Partnership Award. This was the partnership with Iterate, and that was super exciting for us because we are always excited about everything that Michelle and Alta team does, and I think we've been a big supporter of it, and she's been a big supporter of us, and that was great news for us.
Yeah,
it was
fantastic.
very
for 7 years.
Well, 7 years. Yeah.
Congratulations to half the This Week in Innovation podcast team for being victorious. The other half got smoked as the voice of retail, but that's okay. We'll tee it up and we'll come back again.
Well, Jeff, you'll win next time.
So Brian's got to have his trophy on one side of the on your side, and then I'll just have like a little empty shell for where it's going to be at some point. But no, it was all good. I agree. I thought Vicky's event was just fantastic. Set the tone for NRF without a doubt. High elegance, high energy. A lot of people, and at that point we knew NRF was going to be solid. The 3 events quickly. Retail Orphan Initiative Super Saturday packed. Absolutely. Thank you to Avanade and Microsoft and a bunch of other vendors that really came through. I think we raised $380,000. The last event, third event on Sunday night was Kathy Hodka's Retail Insiders Party, also packed, very, very strong. And then finally, Brian, I think you're already out of town, which next year you got to plan on being at, was the Rethink Retail Influencer Bash, which was phenomenal.
And there is a virtual event coming as well, so I'm looking forward to it. I think in the next month or something. Yeah.
So next year you got to tell your wife, you need to be at NRF probably at least through Tuesday morning. You can't bail out, because that party rocked.
Yeah.
That was fantastic.
That would require a barrel of wine, not a bottle of wine.
Well, all good. Well, congratulations on the award. Congratulations to Ulta Cosmetics, one of my favorite retailers. I think what Michelle's doing is absolutely industry leading. I think she's an amazing innovation executive, and congratulations for that award for sure. Guys, thanks for jumping on. Always love chopping up with you guys. I know we do it a lot privately, and I'm glad we can start doing a little bit more on This Week in Innovation.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
Brian.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Solomon, Danny.
See you guys. Bye.
Ciao.
Thanks for giving today's pod a listen, and now a view. For more info, check out the show notes, and please give us a 5-star rating. Like and subscribe, as the kids say. It really helps us grow. If you'd like to be a guest, send me a note. We're always looking for innovative thought leaders and startups really doing interesting things. And make sure to come back for next week's episode.